Hey, what's up YouTube? Today I want to talk about the Fujifilm X100V and my endless pursuit for photographic purity. So let's start with a little story, and I'm going to try and keep this under 160 seconds. 4 years ago, I started photography on a whim with a Canon Rebel T5. I started getting pretty good at it and decided I need to get a T7i for that flip screen and those megapixels and that dual pixel autofocus. Then, I'll have no excuses on getting out there and creating. So I got a little better and mirrorless really started picking up steam, so I agonized on what to get next, an M50 or an A6500 or an A7 III or a GH5, so many options, and not to mention I already spent all this money on Canon glass. So I got the M50. Easy decision, right? It's awesome. What you see is what you get, EVF and focus peaking and all these other great features. So I use that for a while, right? And I get caught up in the shallow depth of field race and I need this speed booster and I need these super fast lenses and I'll be a real professional and won't have any excuses to get out there and start creating. Now I'm dropping money on these full frame lenses and then bam, there's the EOS R. Like I have to have full frame to be a real professional, and the shallow depth of field and the low light abilities and 4K and everything else, this has to be my last camera. Wrong. Again. Now I'm juggling speed boosted lenses on my M50 and full frame lenses with the adapter on the R, and now I need a new set of lenses just to account for the 4K crop, and man, now I need an Atomos Ninja 5 so I can get that 10-bit 422 out of the EOS R and bring my work to the next level so I won't have any excuses on just getting out there and creating. So then I said this is too much, so I sold the kit and I got a GH5 because I thought it'd be a quick and easy kit to jump in with, and I could do all of this amazing 4K 60, 422, 10-bit stuff and blah blah blah, and then I fell in the trap again. The speed booster, the full frame lenses, the endless hunt for the most shallow depth of field and the greatest low light ability, and I feel like I never got the chance to stop thinking about gear and just getting out there and creating. So, that long-winded history lesson is important because it provides some context while I spend the rest of this video gushing about how much I love the X100V and how it actually, finally, inspires me to get out and create through its beautiful simplicity as a tool and its overwhelmingly powerful capabilities as a digital camera. Let's enter the Fujifilm X100V. I remember when I first fell in love with using Fuji cameras, starting with a brief affair with an X-T20 and went on to buy my own X70 and then an X100T, followed by an X-T1 and finally an X100F. But now, with the X100V, I'm as close to a perfect camera as I'll ever be, and no other camera has inspired me to just get out and create as much as this one has. I won't bore anyone with a detailed look at the technical specs of the V, as there are so many other folks on YouTube that have already done that, and very likely a lot better than I can. So briefly speaking, we've got a 35mm f2 equivalent lens paired with a 26 megapixel sensor in an incredibly stylish and compact body with a cleverly flush tilt screen and a built-in ND and leaf shutter. Some standout specs are 4K 30p, 1080p 120, weather resistance, IAF tracking, and all are more or less standard for a modern mirrorless camera. So what are some of the things that just make the X100V so damn special? Well, one of my favorite aspects of the X100V is just how unobtrusive it is. It never gets in your way as a tool, but very much feels like you're using something deliberate, like a real camera. So that sounds pretentious. So what I mean is that everything I need is exactly where I want it in a way that makes sense. Because I can say that the EOS R got out of my way too, but in the way that I could get the job done with it. It felt like a tool, and a great one at that, but it always felt like work and not like a camera that creatively I was connecting with. So what it breaks down to is the combination of having a dedicated aperture, ISO, and shutter speed dial, so I never have to think about switching modes and remembering what dial does what. I can dial it all in with my eye to the viewfinder the entire time. I've got all of my function buttons set up in a way that lets me do what I need to do quickly, and everything else is only a button press away in the highly customizable Q menu. And just to address the old school Fujifilm purists, no, I do not miss the D-pad. And also, no, I don't use the swipe features on the touchscreen. The touchscreen is great for moving around the focus point though, and the fact that it tilts and sits perfectly flush with the body is pretty much the absolute icing on the cake. And as far as size, it's not a pocket camera, but its compact nature really does make it the perfect grab-and-go, take-everywhere travel and lifestyle camera that is also a very serious and capable photographic tool. The next killer app is the image quality and color science. I know everyone out there constantly praises Fujifilm's colors and film simulations, and I've got to say it's absolutely well earned and well deserved. There's just something about the way Fuji's profiles speak to me creatively and inspire me to step outside of my comfort zone and try new techniques or compositions, like using Acros for really nice minimalism style architecture shots or classic chrome for the muted documentary street photography that I like to do. I love the way Provia brings spur of the moment portraits and snapshots to life with its vibrant colors and contrast. One of my least favorite aspects of photography is sitting at the computer and moving files from an SD card to a hard drive to import to Capture One to then export to Dropbox to then sign into on my phone and download from there just to post to social media. Having excellent film simulations with great editing latitude in the JPEGs just makes my life so much easier and makes the process of shooting and editing an enjoyable one. Because that's what this is all about in the end, right? Creating and enjoying the process and making art with your name on it that you're proud of. So there are a number of unique features that the X100V has, like the built-in neutral density filter, which now for the first time in the model series works for video, which means that this is an almost perfect no-frills video capturing machine. That built-in ND and Eterna profile output with 4K and 120 FPS slow-mo is just seriously a gorgeous combo. Another feature I want to mention is the leaf shutter. It's incredibly silent and has almost no shutter shock whatsoever. What this means is that I'm able to capture sharp photos at shutter speeds my other mirrorless cameras couldn't even come close to. Whenever the X100 line gets IBIS, man, this thing will be unstoppable. And so those are just a few of the things I love about the user experience of the X100V, but if I could just talk about something that shouldn't matter, but does, that this camera is honestly, absolutely just a beautiful piece of gear. It looks and feels premium and will absolutely be a conversation starter. If you don't like unsolicited compliments on your gear, I suggest not getting the stunning silver finish and probably going with the much more discreet all black look. So is there anything I don't particularly like? Well, in all honesty, that list is very small. The AF in single point is great and hasn't failed me yet, but I have to say that the continuous mode in both video and for IAF is hardly class leading. It's serviceable, but I rarely use it, and if that's an absolute deal breaker for you, you might be better off with an interchangeable lens camera and one of Fuji's much faster lenses as far as AF motors go. The battery life is fine, but it isn't great if you're using the rear screen constantly or shooting video. It should last you a full day if you're conscious of your battery life. I primarily keep it off until I want to shoot and mostly use the EVF, so I haven't personally had any major issues in that respect. There's a couple of performance tweaks Fuji could make too. Using the clarity setting outside of RAW processing makes the camera take an extra 1 to 2 seconds to save the photo regardless of your burst mode. And switching to video with the drive button is just a tad slower than I think it ought to be. Also, I wouldn't mind having Eterna bleach bypass and nostalgic negative, and also getting the ability to shoot and export 16-bit TIFF files directly from the camera like the X Pro 3 can. Honestly, the fact that this list is so small really goes to show how much I enjoy using the X100V and why it nails it in basically everything I need it for. So at the end of the day, would I say I regret selling all of my other gear and just getting one camera with a fixed lens? If you couldn't tell, pretty much no. There are only two things I really miss after getting rid of all of my previous gear, and that's the look of a full-frame 35mm 1.4 and 85mm focal length. But those are honestly two things I can live without since the X100V checks all other boxes for me. I have both the TCL and the WCL for when or if I absolutely have to switch things up. And honestly, I don't think there's a more perfect package that you can get for the type of shooting that I've found myself doing nowadays. So I guess that about covers it. Why I sold everything for the X100V, and why it's the perfect photographic tool for this point in my life. If you want to follow me in my Fujifilm escapades, you can follow my Instagram at TheMikeCrispy. We've got a great community there, and I'm finding constant inspiration from my followers. Come say what's up. But what do you think? Agree? Disagree? Do you have an X100V? Has it changed the way you approach photography? Let me know down in the comments below, and if you haven't, hit that like and subscribe button, because we've definitely got more Fuji content coming soon. Thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you in the next one.